How dare you give him that water? You had no right to do that. Oh, that's just stopping!
She had no idea the mud on her knees and the rain soaking through her thin dress were the last humiliation they would ever put her through. The night Maya was slapped across the face, dragged by her hair through the front door, and thrown into the cold pouring rain, all for handing a cup of water to a trembling homeless man on the doorstep. Not a single person in that mansion knew they had just sealed their own fate. Her stepmother straightened her diamond bracelet and laughed. Her stepsister slammed the heavy oak door so hard the chandelier shook inside. And Maya sat on the wet pavement, bleeding, shivering, with nowhere to go in front of a house she would soon discover had always belonged to her. But here's what made that night different from every other night they had broken her. That homeless man wasn't just a stranger. He had been watching, waiting, sent specifically to find her by a father she thought had left her with nothing. And tucked inside his coat, pressed against his chest to keep it dry from the rain, was a sealed envelope. A lawyer's letter. And at the very last page of her late father's will was a single paragraph so devastating, so final, so perfectly calculated that when it was read aloud in that very living room just days later, the same hands that had slapped Maya were now trembling, reaching out, begging the woman they threw into the rain to please have mercy. This is her story, and every second of it will leave your mouth open. Rain had a way of erasing evidence. That was the first lie Maya learned that night. The second lie was that pain eventually numbed itself. She knelt where they left her, palms pressed into gravel that bit through skin, the cold creeping past her bones like something alive. The mansion loomed behind her white columns, imported stone, windows glowing warm with chandeliers and champagne, a palace built on silence. Her silence, her mother's. And long before that, her father's. Maya tasted blood and rain, copper and dirt. She tried to stand. Her knees failed her. Inside the house, laughter rose. Not loud, controlled. The kind of laughter people use when they're confident no one will ever hold them accountable. Victoria Hale always laughed like that. Maya remembered being 9 years old, standing in the same driveway, clutching a cardboard box of her things while movers carried furniture past her like she was invisible. Victoria had knelt then, diamond bracelet flashing, voice sugar sweet. You'll understand when you're older, Maya. Adults make decisions children can't comprehend. That was the third lie. Tonight, Victoria hadn't knelt. She hadn't needed to. Power doesn't bend. You should have known better, her stepsister Lauren had sneered before slamming the door. You embarrass us. Us. As if Maya had ever belonged. The slap still rang in her ears, sharp, practiced. Victoria never hit without witnesses gone. Tonight was different. Tonight, the rain was the witness, and the homeless man. The one Maya couldn't stop thinking about. He'd stood trembling on the doorstep, soaked to the bone, eyes too sharp for someone pretending to be broken. Maya had noticed that. She always noticed things. That's what made her dangerous. Please, he'd whispered. Just water. Victoria had seen it all from the stairs. Get that filth away from my house. Maya hadn't argued. She'd learned long ago arguments were traps. She'd simply turned, filled a glass, and handed it over. That was enough. Dragged, slapped, thrown, and now abandoned. The man was still there. Maya realized it slowly, through the haze of pain. A shadow detached itself from the iron gate. He hadn't left. He hadn't begged again. He watched the house like a predator watches a nest. You shouldn't be here, Maya croaked. He stepped closer, and she flinched, instinct drilled into her by years of careful cruelty. Neither should you, he said gently. His voice was wrong, too calm, too steady, not broken. Lightning split the sky, and for a heartbeat, she saw his face clearly, clean-shaven beneath the grime, eyes alert, calculating. You're bleeding, he added. I'll live. He smiled at that, Not kindly, not cruelly, like someone confirming a theory. "My name is Daniel," he said. "Your father asked me to find you." The world tilted. "My father is dead." "So they told you." That sentence cracked something open. Not grief Maya had buried that years ago, but anger, the slow-burning kind, the kind that survives. "They said he left nothing," she whispered. "They said he gambled it away, that he ruined us." Daniel reached into his coat, slow enough not to scare her, and pulled out an envelope wrapped in plastic, held close to his chest like a heart. "They lied," he said, "about everything." Maya stared at the seal. Gold, embossed. Her last name, Hale, stamped into it. But not for long. A car engine purred somewhere up the hill. Security patrol. The kind Victoria paid well. Daniel extended the envelope. "Read it later, not here." "What happens now?" Maya asked. His eyes flicked to the mansion. "Now," he said, "they think they won." Thunder rolled, deep, approving. Maya took the envelope. Inside the house, Victoria Hale raised a glass, smiling. Outside, soaked and shaking, Maya felt something unfamiliar wrap around her ribs and squeeze. Not fear. Purpose. The motel smelled like bleach, old smoke, and desperation layered so thick it clung to Maya's skin. It was the kind of place people ended up when the world had already decided they were disposable. Flickering neon leaked through warped curtains, casting the room in sickly pink light that made everything feel unreal, like a crime scene preserved in amber. Daniel locked the door behind them and slid the deadbolt into place. The sound was small but final. "You're safe here," he said, though his eyes never stopped moving, tracking reflections, shadows, the window. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, her dress still wet, knees scraped raw. She hadn't let go of the envelope. Her fingers were cramped around it, as if loosening her grip would make it vanish, like every promise before it. "They always said he didn't care," she said quietly, "that he walked away." Daniel leaned against the desk. "Your father didn't walk away. He was pushed." That word landed heavier than any slap. Maya stared at the envelope again, at the name she shared with people who hated her. She thought of the study she was never allowed to enter, the locked drawers, the sudden phone calls that ended when she entered a room, the way Victoria's smile tightened whenever her father's name was mentioned. She broke the seal. Inside were legal documents, dense and cold and merciless in their precision. Trusts, shell companies, property deeds, dates going back decades. Every page whispered the same truth. Her father hadn't lost his fortune. He had hidden it, protected it, and built something else in the shadows. And at the bottom was a letter, handwritten. "Maya, if you are reading this, then they succeeded in convincing the world I was weak. I was not. I was careful." Her vision blurred. Daniel didn't interrupt. He'd been instructed not to. "Victoria will never forgive what she did to your mother. She will make you pay for it instead. Let her. Every bruise, every humiliation, every stolen year has been accounted for." Maya swallowed hard. "I needed to know who you would become without me. Whether you would be kind when no one was watching." Tonight answered that question. Her hands trembled as she turned the page. "Daniel is not a beggar. He is my witness, my executor, and my contingency." Maya looked up. "You let them hurt me." Daniel met her gaze without flinching. "Yes, I..." Rage flared, sudden and sharp. "You watched." "So did your father," Daniel said, voice low, from farther away. "Because this only works if they believe you are powerless." Maya laughed then, a broken sound that scared even her. They never questioned that. Outside, a car passed slowly, headlights washing over the wall like an interrogation lamp. Maya's mind reeled backward through years of gaslighting so subtle it had felt like weather. Being told she was forgetful, when things went missing, ungrateful when she asked questions, unstable when she cried. Victoria had engineered her reality piece by piece until Maya no longer trusted her own memories. Trust yourself, the letter continued. You see more than they think. That will terrify them. Daniel pointed to the final pages. Read that part last. Maya did. It was a clause. Just one paragraph. Brutal in its simplicity. Every asset, every property, every account tied irrevocably to her name upon verification of identity. But more than that, a poison pill. If any beneficiary attempted to contest, intimidate, or coerce her, their access would be permanently revoked and redistributed to organizations Victoria publicly despised. Women's shelters, whistleblower funds, legal defense pools for domestic abuse victims. Victoria's worst nightmare, written in legal ink. Maya felt something inside her click into place. Years of fear rearranged themselves into a map. When? She asked. 3 days, Daniel said. The will is read in the mansion. Your mansion. Maya closed the folder. They're going to beg, she said, not as a question. Yes. And I'm supposed to forgive them? Daniel didn't answer right away. He walked to the window, checked the lot, then turned back. You're supposed to decide who they are when power changes hands. Maya stood. Her knees still ached, but she didn't wobble. The girl in the rain was already slipping into the past. They taught me mercy was weakness, she said. They taught me pain was love. They taught me silence was survival. She looked at Daniel, eyes steady now. I learned very well. Thunder growled in the distance again, closer this time, as if something ancient was leaning in to listen. Maya folded the letter carefully and slipped it back into the envelope. The night hadn't broken her. It had introduced her to herself. And somewhere, in a mansion filled with glass and lies, Victoria Hale slept peacefully, unaware that every foundation she stood on had already begun to rot. Morning came to the mansion the way it always did, quiet, obedient, filtered through imported glass that softened the sun until even daylight felt curated. The house woke in layers. First, the staff. Then the silence. Then Victoria Hale. She stood at the master bathroom mirror, fastening pearl earrings, studying her reflection the way generals studied maps. No cracks, no doubt. No sign of the small, sour unease that had followed her since the storm 3 nights ago. Maya should have crawled back by now. She always did. Victoria smoothed the front of her tailored dress and reminded herself that weakness had a pattern: hunger, cold, shame, eventually gratitude. Maya had never learned to survive without her. That was the point. Downstairs, the long dining table gleamed, polished to a surgical shine. The will reading would take place in the formal living room at noon, as instructed by the attorney. Victoria hated that. She preferred rooms that bent to her will. Still, she allowed herself a thin smile. Dead men couldn't surprise her, especially not dead men she had already destroyed. At 11:47, the front gate opened. The sound carried through the house like a hairline fracture. Lauren looked up from her phone. Were we expecting someone? Victoria's bracelet caught the light as her hand stilled. No. The doorbell rang once, firm, unapologetic. The attorney arrived first, gray-suited and cautious, a man who knew how to survive powerful rooms. Behind him stepped Daniel, clean now, unrecognizable from the night in the rain. And then, Maya. She stood in the doorway like a held breath finally released. Her hair was dry, pulled back simply. She wore black, not mourning, preparation. Her eyes moved through the room, cataloging everything. The portraits, the rugs, the exits. Victoria felt something she hadn't felt in years. Disorientation. You have some nerve, Lauren snapped, standing. After what you did. The attorney cleared his throat. Miss Hale is expected. Victoria smiled, sharp and bright. She's confused. We can discuss this privately. No, Maya said. One word, calm, level. It landed harder than shouting ever could. They sat. The attorney began. Legal language filled the room, dense and deliberate. Victoria listened with half an ear, already planning how to dismantle whatever pathetic inheritance had been left. Then the names started changing. Assets she recognized, properties she didn't realize were connected, accounts she'd assumed were dormant. Her smile froze. This is incorrect, she said, finally. The attorney adjusted his glasses. It is verified. Maya watched her stepmother's composure erode in increments too small for anyone but her to notice. The tightening jaw, the shallow breath, the way Lauren's foot began tapping under the table. And now, the attorney said, the final clause. The room seemed to tilt. As the paragraph was read aloud, every word struck like a verdict. Contesting meant forfeiture. Intimidation meant exposure. Coercion meant public redistribution. Victoria felt the walls closing in, not physically, but reputationally, socially, politically. This wasn't just money. This was leverage. This was annihilation. Her voice trembled despite her. Maya, darling. Maya didn't look at her. This must be overwhelming, Victoria continued, reaching out, fingers shaking. We're family. Surely we can come to an understanding. Understanding. Maya remembered kneeling in the rain, remembered being told she imagined the bruises, remembered apologizing for things she hadn't done just to make the screaming stop. She stood slowly. You taught me something, Maya said, voice soft enough to force them to lean in. You taught me that truth only matters when someone has the power to enforce it. Victoria's hand hovered in the air between them, suddenly unsure. And now, Maya continued, I do. Silence swallowed the room. The attorney closed his folder. This concludes the reading. Victoria's mask finally cracked. You owe us, she hissed, low enough to sound like a plea. Maya met her eyes at last. I owe you nothing. She turned and walked out, Daniel at her side. Behind them, the mansion felt smaller, hollow. But as the gate closed, Maya's phone vibrated. One message, unknown number. You think this is over. It isn't. Maya didn't stop walking. Maya did not return to the motel. Daniel drove her instead to a building that did not advertise itself, a concrete structure wedged between a tax firm and a closed daycare, its windows dark, its entrance unmarked. The kind of place designed to disappear in plain sight. As they stepped inside, the air changed, thicker, conditioned, monitored. You should know, Daniel said as the elevator descended, that what you took from them today was not just money. Maya leaned against the wall, exhaustion finally seeping through the adrenaline. It never is. The doors opened onto a floor that felt more like a bunker than an office. Screens lined one wall. Files filled another. Names she did not recognize, yet somehow felt familiar, scrolled past on a muted monitor. Your father built this after your mother died, Daniel said, not to protect himself, to document them. A quote. Maya's pulse slowed, sharpened. Them? Daniel handed her a tablet. On it were records that made the mansion's cruelty feel provincial. Campaign donations, routed through charities. Judges reassigned after rulings. Zoning laws, rewritten overnight. A latticework of influence so dense it looked organic, like a parasite grown over decades. Victoria married into power, Daniel continued, but she answered to it. She was rewarded for breaking you, for keeping you small. Quote. Maya's stomach tightened. Why? Because you were leverage, he said, a living reminder of a man who refused to sell everything. Her father's letter echoed in her head. Every bruise has been accounted for. And my mother? Maya asked. Daniel hesitated. That was answer enough. She threatened to talk, he said finally. Your father pulled you out of the room that night before the shouting started. You never heard the rest. And Maya closed her eyes, memories rearranging themselves with sickening clarity. The slammed doors, the sudden move, the rewritten narrative. Grief curated into compliance. She didn't fall, Maya said. No. Silence settled between them, heavy but clarifying. A soft chime sounded from the main screen. An alert. Incoming message. Secure. Channel. Daniel stiffened. They're faster than I expected. The message opened automatically. No sender name, just text. Congratulations on your inheritance, Maya Hale. Your father was a difficult man. You are proving to be more efficient. Her fingers curled into her palm. Another message followed. You humiliated Victoria today. That was unnecessary, emotional. Daniel looked at her sharply. They're watching in real time. Maya didn't look away from the screen. A third message appeared. We prefer order. You prefer justice. These preferences can coexist if you are reasonable. Maya laughed quietly, the sound devoid of humor. They sound just like her. On the screen, a file unlocked itself. Video footage loaded. Grainy. Night vision. The mansion's driveway. 3 nights ago. Maya. Soaked. Shaking. Victoria's hand raised. They let it happen, Maya said. They encouraged it, Daniel replied. Pain tests loyalty. The final message came slower, deliberate. Your father believed you would be kinder than he was. That assumption may cost you everything. Maya set the tablet down. All this time, she said, voice steady, they thought they were shaping me. Daniel watched her carefully. And were they wrong? Maya considered the question, not defensively, but honestly. She thought of the shelters named in the will, the clause that bled money into places Victoria despised. The way her stepmother's voice had broken when the balance of power shifted. They taught me exactly what power does when it goes unchallenged, Maya said, and exactly how it sounds when it begs. The lights flickered once. Just once. Daniel's phone buzzed. He read the message, color draining from his face. They've filed an emergency injunction. Not against the will, against you. For what? National security, he said. Your father's records implicate people who don't lose gracefully. Maya felt the weight of the room press closer. So, what happens now? Daniel exhaled. Now, they decide whether to erase you quietly or make an example. The main screen changed again, this time showing a live feed. The mansion, police cars, outside. Lauren, crying, on the steps. Victoria being escorted out, screaming Maya's name, her voice raw with terror and something else beneath it. Relief. She looked relieved. Maya understood then. Victoria had never been the end. She had been the warning. Another message appeared, final and unresolved. Mercy is still an option. So is survival. Choose carefully. Maya stared at the screen, at the woman who had broken her, at the system that had profited from it, at the inheritance that was never meant to be gentle. She picked up the tablet again, fingers steady. My father thought kindness would save me, she said. He was wrong. Daniel waited. But cruelty won't either, Maya continued, and that's where they miscalculated. She began typing. Outside, somewhere beyond the bunker walls, power shifted in ways no one could yet measure. And as Maya sent her reply, the future fractured, branching into paths paved with blood, truth, and consequences no will could contain. The screen blinked. Message delivered. And for the first time since the rain, Maya did not know who was afraid of whom.